Good morning, good evening from India as well. Hello to everyone. Welcome all our listeners. At here we are with Shamim ji from Ujala.Healing, and I am Gargi from Anamkara with Gargi. We are doing a podcast with We for You on EFT. So thank you, Shamim ji, for joining me here today. I
You're welcome.
I think we'll just quickly get to the topics that we want to touch and focus on today. I thought it would be a really good idea to focus on self acceptance, self worth, and self love. But as you mentioned, there are different steps going towards it, right? How do we feel? Why do we feel we cannot reach it? So, yeah, please go ahead and introduce our topic today for everyone.
Good morning, Gargi, and good morning and good evening, wherever you guys are listening from. My name is Shamima Miri. I'm the founder of Ujala.Healing, and I'm an EFT practitioner, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, also known as tapping. So, today, if we're talking about love, which we all aspire to get to a place where we can love ourselves and accept ourselves and be with ourselves. But it's also important that why is love not present in us? Sometimes most of our focus goes on how do I love myself or how do I love people around me. But I think the bigger question is that what is coming in the way? Right. So for me, being an EFT practitioner, what I have learned is let's look at what is the truth of the matter, right? And the truth of the matter is, for most of us, is that we are unable to love our own self, let alone loving people around us. So the question arises is that why are we not able to love, and why self-love is so difficult? So we'll kind of go in the reverse rather than working towards how do we love ourselves. We will try to get into a space where why is it so difficult for us?
Yeah.
And for our South Asian community, that's what we are focusing on, is that growing up, if you grew up where there was a lot of criticism, a lot of judgment, or where you were judged for not being enough, you start to believe that I'm not enough or I'm not worth it. So if those belief system resides in your brain and you make that your truth, it is almost impossible to love ourselves. So the idea is to get into that space, that belief system, we can challenge it, right? That maybe that's not the truth. Maybe that is what we just believed about ourselves, right? The other part is,
Yeah.
sorry,
Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. The second part that I want to touch base when we talk about love is that sometimes our love is conditional, right? Conditional love is very common in our culture. So, for example, if you get good grades, I'm going to love you, right? If you do what I tell you, I'm going to love you. So, the child growing up, if he believes that, my love is conditional, it's not going to just happen automatically. My caretakers are not just going to love me for who I am, but if I get into engineering or if I get into medical school, then they are going to love me. So I need to prove myself for just that, right? The third thing happens in self love is when there is a lack of support, right? Kids don't know how to love. They are looking for that support. That I think in our first podcast we had talked about what Gabor says about attachment and authenticity. They don't know. They just know that they're supposed to get it. They don't know any different. So when there is a lack of support, then we also believe that we're not lovable. So I think those are the three things that come to my mind to answer your question, that why are we not able to love ourselves?
I think because specifically you talked about our culture, I wanted to add on
Yeah.
a point wherein how do we differentiate between self love and arrogance? A lot of people just assume that you are confident or if you have some amount of self worth, then you must be arrogant. So
Mm-hmm.
if you could please, I mean, once we've done the 3 points, then maybe elaborate a little bit more also on why arrogance and self-love are different things.
Yeah. And yeah, we can touch on that right now because we don't know the difference.
Mm.
So remember where we talked about the conditional love or lack of support, then we just kind of make that as our defense.
Yes.
So arrogance is a self-defense if you think about it, right? We just come out confident, maybe we don't know our stuff, but we just want to prove ourselves.
Mm.
So that can be confused with self-love because self-love is humility. Self-love is when we are humble.
Mm.
Self-love when we have empathy. But in the absence of all of that, we just think that, okay, if I know all this, because I know my parents told me if I'm going to become an engineer, I'm going to be loved, meaning the whole world is going to love me, right? So then I better just do just that. So if that makes any sense.
That does. It does make sense. That is why I wanted to bring this point up as well. So, yes, please, if you could elaborate a little bit more on how specifically you work with kids as well. And I got to know that in the past month or so, you've been working with kids. So, if you could tell us a little bit more about that experience and how you've started working with children, wherein they can work on self worth, maybe, and things that can be worked on while you're young.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel so fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work with kids, and I just absolutely love working with kids because they're so vulnerable, they're so pure, and this is a perfect age where we can do this attachment and authenticity with them, right? And I think the most important thing as parent, and I'm a parent and a grandparent, that we love our kids, no questions asked. 100%. All parents in this world, doesn't matter what race, gender, we love our kids unconditionally. But the question is, the way we love our kids, do the kids want us to be loved that way?
Hmm.
That is the question to ask ourselves. So when our kids are not listening to us, or they're having difficulty sleeping, or they are comparing, excuse me, and we say to our, like I've heard this so many times, you know how hard I work for you, I have two jobs, and because of you I'm doing this, and you don't listen to me, and you don't do well in school. Well, now we have actually burdened our kids with our own stress,
And it's become
right?
transactional,
It
right?
is, it is a very transactional. And we brought these kids in this world full knowing what we were doing. So
Mm.
now it is parents' responsibility. It's not a child's responsibility.
Mm.
So when we make our love conditional, that is where the kid starts to disconnect with themselves.
Mm.
And some of and kids mirror exactly what the parents do. So
Mm.
if we do one thing and say one thing, they're confused. So with that, the way I do a lot of, as you know, EFT with kids, and I use EFT points as either a magic points or a silly point because they don't know what we're doing, and it's like, why are we doing? So before I do that, I actually explain them how does our brain work. And I used to do it with kids, but now I started doing it with adults too, because some of us are visual learners and
Yes.
we don't know when we are stuck in any of our stress or trauma, what do we do? So you may have heard of flip your lid
Yes.
way to explain. So to explain like that, when our brain actually looks like this from inside, our whole brain working really well, then it looks something like this, where the thumb is inside, and if you illustrate, it looks like that. So if you open it up, the wrist part, which is the bottom part of your brain, is the automatic part. So
Mm.
automatic meaning we breathe when we have to breathe, our heartbeat, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. So that's this part.
Mm.
Your thumb, which is tucked inside, is like a guard dog.
Mm.
And the guard dog's job is to keep you safe when the danger comes. So when it's inside, it's not worried about it, right? Now, the wrist part, the fingers part of ours, is what we call it the wise owl. Okay, so this is the part where we know what we are supposed to be doing, right? Where we make a decision when we have, or we call it what is it, the prefrontal cortex. That's the decision executive functions that it does, right? So we have control here, but we have no control here. So in a good space, it's like this, right? But when the guard dog senses danger,
Mm.
and kids love this part, when the guard dog senses danger, meaning there is a big worry
Mm.
or a big frustration, or I don't know what to do with this, the
Mm.
guard dog comes out and the brain goes wide open.
Mm.
Now, this wise owl is no longer in charge, and we are all over the place.
Mm.
So we don't know, right? Our amygdala gets all activated, the fight, flight, and freeze part of our brain.
Yes.
So when that happens, when you are frustrated and you don't know what to do and you are angry, now what you do is you take a breath by taking a pause, and we start to do our tapping,
Mm.
and the guard dog goes down and the flip closes. So now we are in a better space to process the information.
Mm.
So kids love this part. Adults understand, kids understand. And now I will say, okay, now tell me, what is the biggest emotion you have? Is there any memory that happened to you, or you are feeling it right now? And
Mm.
most of the kids would be like, my parents don't let me watch TV, or I have, I like my video game and they don't let me do that, or they tell me to go to bed at 9 o'clock and I don't want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. All
Mm.
right, okay, that must be hard. And
Mm.
they're like, yeah, it's really hard. Okay, where do you feel it in your body when that happens? Oh, I don't know. My stomach starts to have like butterfly in my stomach, and my heart starts to race. Okay, all right. Can we sit with that? Can you tell me how it feels? So now we have tried to take them out of their headspace into their body,
Yes.
right? And the moment they come into their body, it's not as big.
Mm.
And then, because at that time, when they are very frustrated and angry, and we start to make sense of it, the why are you feeling this way? You shouldn't be feeling this way. And it's 9 o'clock. That's usually the conversation that happens between a parent and a child. So when we have big emotions like that, we
Mm.
are disconnected already with everything. So logic part is not working. So that's what I usually do with parents too, when we do what we call as co-tapping with your child,
Mm.
is to just sit with them at that very moment. That I know it's hard. I know 9 o'clock going to bed doesn't sound very good idea to you.
Mm.
So I understand.
Mm.
Oh, so once they are a little bit calmed down and they're able to catch their breath and they are in their body, then we can introduce something like that. Look, you have school tomorrow morning.
Mm.
So you need 8 hours of sleep. And that is the reason you are asked. Or if I have allocated 1 hour of screen time, I think for your age, that's enough. As you get older, we can negotiate. As you get older, maybe we can increase it. So I find that to be a huge success,
Mm.
where they are now understood. Now we can introduce self love in their life. But
Mm.
before then, it's
So basically, you're talking about going from a state of overwhelm to a state where you're calmer, and then you can
Mhm.
discuss. But
Yeah,
thank you for the
absolutely.
proper demonstration as well. I think that made a lot of sense to me, and it will make a lot of sense to others as well. Because yes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly, it's a visual thing, and it's very easy to understand, and you understand. Okay, okay, this is how it is.
yeah, and yeah. So it's yeah, I think it's quite useful, because we're living in a very stressful environment as is, right? The energy in the world is very, very unstable,
Mm.
right? Um, so it's hard for kids to process, let alone the adults.
Yes. So, do you have anything specific in mind regarding any kids? Again, keeping confidentiality forward. If you could share some examples with us of children you worked with and any specific thing that you worked on and that has helped them. over time?
Yeah, so one case that comes to my mind is actually there's quite a few, but it's a constant issue is the screen time.
Right.
As you and I both know, we live in a society where we are scrolling all the time, whether it's TikTok or Instagram Reel or whatever. Kids are no different. They are using for video games and stuff. Some kids are they get really frustrated when they are asked that, okay, now you're done. So one thing that has worked well is that it's the parent and the child has to be on the same wavelength, right? So some of the parents that I work with, well, they have no boundaries. They can use as much phone as they want, but the child doesn't. And the rationale in their mind is that, well, I'm a parent, they're a child.
That
But
dialogue,
if we are,
na, ki do as I say, not as I do. So,
they do exactly, yeah.
mm,
And it doesn't really land very well. So the idea is that if we want to educate our kids, then we need to be a part of it,
mm,
right? So at dinner time, there's no cell phones are coming on the dinner table. In my phone is not coming,
yeah.
right? Because everybody who's important in my life is right here.
Mm,
So anybody else can wait,
mm,
right? The other thing that we have done is we have done a lot of co-tapping with our children. That parents are saying the same things. So something like that. That even though I love my phone so much. I want to go on TikTok. I want to go on Instagram. I want to check my messages all the time, and I understand.
mm,
So if I have this love for my phone or my gadget, I can understand how hard it must be. So what do you watch on your phone? So
mm,
having this dialogue while we are tapping. So this tapping, what it does is it normalizes and it energy is a little bit calmer.
mm.
Usually the conversation is, what are you watching? You know it's not good for you. You shouldn't be
Charge.
watching.
Mm,
And our demeanor is very much, like you said, charged up.
mm.
And the moment our demeanor goes up, the child is disconnected. So, one thing that I always tell the parents, you don't have to work harder. You actually have to work softer,
That is a brilliant.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we work really hard thinking that it's going to make a change. But if we work softer and have that conversation and become curious in their life, what do you watch?
Mm,
Can we watch this together?
mm,
Right? And then it's like, okay, you know what? When I'm on my phone for 2 or 3 hours, there's so many things I can do. So why don't we just negotiate? What do you think is the best time for you?
yeah.
Right? I think for a 7-year-old, I think 50 minutes is enough. So we're
Mm,
going to start with 50 minutes. But then after 50 minutes, what do you think we would want to do? Maybe we can go out to play. Maybe we can play a board game together. Because
exactly.
I really, really want you to have your screen time. I
Mm,
really want you to have screen time because I want my screen time and I know how much you love and I want to do things that makes you happy. So with that energy, it starts to kids are more willing to negotiate with you. So
You've
when
done
I
a couple
say
of,
don't,
yeah, sorry I interrupted you, but that's what I was about to say. Kid. You've done a couple of things here. You've reframed things, you've given them options, and together talked about a solution that parents and the child are discussing it, right? Instead of
yeah.
being imposed upon them, it's being a discussion. It's a discussion.
Yeah, the moment you impose, you disconnect with the child. The moment you bring your trauma to the child, they're disconnected,
Mm,
right? It doesn't matter. You have two jobs. It actually does not matter to them at that age.
mm,
Maybe that would be the conversation when they're adult and when they are having their struggle and you say to them, you know what, I understand because I had to go through that. But not when they're 5 or 6,
mm,
right? Because then they disconnect, then they become, then we're giving them conditional love. That is not what, that's their being loved and attached is their right.
mm,
They need to have that. That's, like I said, the self-worth, that's where it comes from because it's deep rooted in you.
mm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think this is a good point to for me to mention that I wanted to know more about, as we discussed in the beginning. We're talking about self love, self worth. You've talked about disconnection. What does it usually look like when you don't have self love as an adult? Now, I'm not talking as kids, I'm talking as adults.
Yeah,
You can give
yeah,
us ways of identifying first and then working on it. That would be great.
yeah. So, as an adult, and I do have some adults that I work with where there's no self love. And I think that comes from the biggest thing is that when they have no support in life and there's no agencies for them, they
Mm,
haven't had any agencies from early childhood. Everything boils down to our childhood.
mm,
So this disconnect that we as an adult that we feel is not a new disconnect.
mm,
It has been a part of our life for a very long time,
mm,
from early childhood. And then we have some defenses that we have built for ourselves,
mm,
right? Which is, I'm not worth it, or
mm,
I don't matter, right?
mm,
I'm not lovable. So those are all the signs where we are disconnected, right? Sometimes we become a people pleasers.
mm. Yes.
That's a big one. Sometimes we become the joke of the family, right? Like, okay, I'm going to make everybody laugh, right? So these are some of the signs. And then on the other spectrum, sometimes it's like when we are not talking to anybody,
Mm,
right? I'm working with one individual who has not talked about her childhood in the last 75 years with anybody,
mm.
right? Smart guy, intelligent, super brilliant person, but doesn't know how to get into your body
Yes.
because everything we intellectualize,
Mm,
right? When we feel, we run away from it.
mm,
So we don't know how to feel. And we do when we start to work, you know why they weren't able to feel is because to feel is where it hurts the most, right? Like we talked about that healing happens when we reveal.
mm.
So there's a disconnection happening, and disconnection is way rooted back into your childhood.
Definitely. I think just please tell us a little bit more about self compassion as well and how tapping as a modality can help with that.
Yeah. Um, when it comes to tapping, I'm unstoppable. So self compassion again. It's actually I'll go into a reverse.
Mm,
If somebody wants to work on self compassion, the question I would ask is, what does self compassion look like for you, and why are we not able to love ourselves? What
mm.
happened? Tell me more.
Big
Right?
question.
Tell me, yeah, tell me more.
Mm,
So once we get to know how do we feel right now,
mm,
no compassion for myself. It's not like I want self compassion. It's like I have no compassion for myself. I
mm,
don't see myself as worth it.
mm,
Ah, you don't see it. Okay. How far does it go back? Way back. Ah, did you tell anybody about it? No. Ah, okay. Do you know anybody of that age? Yeah,
mm,
I know a 7-year old. What would that child feel like if that child is not able to go talk to anybody? Oh, that child would be devastated. Right, so we try to build that connection and show them that when they were not loved at that time or when they were not connected, it was not their fault, and it was also not the fault of the caretaker. They
mm,
only knew what they could. If they knew better, they would have done better. So then the question comes for the forgiveness,
mm.
that I give permission to myself that it wasn't my fault.
Yes.
So no wonder I have no self compassion for myself.
Mm,
And then you start working on how can we build that compassion for ourselves now that we have the wisdom of why I didn't have it.
mm,
So sometimes that approach is is way more goes smoother than so you would hear me often talk about that. I normally don't go into the positive right away, not that I don't want to be positive, but I want to go into the space that what is the truth right now,
Yes. Toxic
right? And
positivity of like just saying ki things are going to be better and yeah,
yeah,
you go
yeah,
good.
just
But they
yeah, yeah,
get into that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it feels good at a moment that everything is going to be okay and fine, yeah. But it's not serving the purpose. I'm not feeling good. I'm actually not feeling good. So you validating me that I feel shitty, then yeah, but it's not really doing well for me. So the idea is, why do I feel the way I feel? And how far does it go back?
Mm.
And do I hold myself responsible for that? So when you go the reverse, then self compassion automatically happens.
Come up. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it makes sense.
yeah,
So basically, you're saying that as tapping as a professional, you are basically creating a story. You're getting the story out of a person, and then you're figuring out the reason, and then you're working on that emotion.
yeah. And giving them the space, right? Giving them the space by creating the trust, building the trust with them.
Mm.
So we're not rushing into any of that because we're not here to give them any tools or fix them or anything. But I think to bring them aware of their own truth,
Mm.
maybe giving them a different perspective, or maybe giving them the tools to question their thoughts. That it's okay to question the thoughts. It's okay to say that what happened was not the right thing,
Mm.
right? The moment you give them the space to explore, or the space to understand, the self-love, the compassion, that automatically comes. And the best way it comes is in a form of tears, where they have hold themselves back, because we all live up here. Now we all fixers, we're
Yeah.
all negotiators, we can fix anything. But
And
the moment we let go of this part and get into our body,
Mm.
then, as you know, the body also remembers all the memories and all the trauma. So we may have the emotional memory and the brain memory. So that starts to manifest itself.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think for this episode, we've covered a lot of ground. And
Yeah,
yeah, right? And
absolutely.
there's been some powerful revelations for me. And overall, I think if people want to learn more about EFT, then they can definitely follow you on social media and find out
Yes.
tips and ways that EFT can help them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My numbers are in the caption, and Ujala.Healing is on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, I would love to hear from anybody. I do have a nonprofit, which allows me to see people who are unable to afford. So I always want to put that part in, so that we are out there taking care. And like I said, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that when it comes to our kids, we don't have to work hard. We just have to work a little softer.
Yes. No, we'll definitely add all of this information for everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our listeners as well. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Next
Bye
episode.
bye.
Bye.